home is within myself,
Yeah.
then if I create that sense of belonging within, I really feel at home in my skin. And I think this is one of the joys of getting older. We get it that's something that also happens. We feel, at least for myself, feel more comfortable in the skin I'm in. I understand myself better. I feel more at home. I feel like I belong to me. And so then
Yeah.
home travels wherever I am.
What if the truth came in a gel cap and we could just pop it in our mouths and forget about it? Well, it doesn't. And we can't. But we can laugh in the face of reality while plotting our survival. Welcome to the Truth Tastes Funny podcast. I am your host, Hersh Rephun. And if my guests can handle the truth, so can you. Open wide, folks. Here it comes.
Welcome, everybody, to Truth Tastes Funny. My guest today is Pia Mailhot-Leichter. She is a creative partner, published author. We'll talk about her book a little bit. Welcome to the Creative Club. She's a coach, an entrepreneur, and really she describes herself as a recovering nomad. She now lives in Copenhagen, and but she is grew up in New York and is an American and a Canadian citizen as well. So, we have this worldly experience, creative person, award-winning creative director, working with some of the world's biggest brands. And now she has Collective Studio with a K, Collective Studio. And there she wants to co-create wild visions and ventures. And that's one of the things also that made me want to have Pia on the show is this kind of freedom to let your creative spark just kind of lead you in certain directions without, always clamping down on it. So anyway, Pia, welcome to the show.
Hirsch, thanks for having me here. I'm so excited to have this wild co-creation together.
That's right. It is. And life also is like a wild co-creation. And we were talking before the show about, is there a perfect place to move? Because as a nomad, the principle is that you're always moving, that you may stay for a certain amount of time, but you're nomadic. You're not putting roots down in any one place. Now, I don't know any statistical numbers, but nowadays, and certainly younger generations, millennials, Gen Z are feeling like they don't they don't need to necessarily buy a home or settle down. What are your thoughts having spent so much time traveling, having moved and settled down now in a place that was not your native home? What are your thoughts on the search for, let's actually call it the search for belonging?
Ooh, such good questions. Well, growing up, I think I went to eight different elementary schools and high schools combined. So I moved around a lot. My mother is a proud hippie and some artist, you know, she just loved do-overs. It was kind of her thing. Like something didn't work and it's like, all right, time to turn the page. Let's see where else we could go. Or also just adventure. Like, okay, this is enough of this. Let's move on. It was really tough as a kid, but in many ways, it taught me a lot. It gave me a lot of gifts. It taught me how to read a room, how to read energy, how to shapeshift, how to figure out what shape I needed to take in order to survive and thrive in a lot of different cultures and environments. It got gnarly when I got to be a teenager, when everything inside my body was changing and then the exterior
Hmm.
was changing. The two together was not a great mix. But as a kid, I think it gave me a lot. What it also gave me was a default pattern. It just was life as I knew it. That's what you did. You just moved, especially when shit got tough, when things
Yeah.
got difficult. The answer was, okay, let's start again. And so I was faced with this decision to move or not to move again. When I just had moved to Copenhagen from London, I had been in London for 4 years. Before London, I was in France. Before France, I'd been in Bahrain. Before Bahrain, I was in New York City. Before New York City, I was in Sri Lanka. Onwards and onwards. But that's as an adult.
Yeah.
And after a difficult divorce, I don't know what divorce isn't difficult, but mine definitely was heart-wrenching. I walked into a therapist's office because at some point you need to. And I just said, okay, look, this isn't going well. I'm heartbroken. Maybe it's just time to move to Paris. Like, I actually had a job
Yeah.
opportunity. It's maybe it's just time to go. My therapist looked at me and said, yeah, you could do that. You could move to Paris and then you could keep moving every year or two or whatever for the rest of your life if you want to. Or you could learn how to stay. You can learn how to develop a deeper relationship with yourself, with a place, with other people.
Yeah.
Up to you. And it was in that moment, like what she gave me in that moment was a reminder that I had a choice.
Yeah.
I think I had forgotten because it was just so habitual. It's what I came from. It's what I knew. It's like, oh, okay. And it was a great way of not having to necessarily sit in what I was going through because when you're about to move, it's like a new honeymoon period. You're very
Right.
distracted. You're like,
Right.
who am I in this new environment? Oh, I have to explore the apartment. You have practical things. It's just, it's a great diversion in many, many different
And
ways.
it's a shape-shifting, endeavor because you're going into this, oh, I got to learn the language or I have to polish up on the language. I have to, I'm adjusting to the culture. I'm adjusting to the geography, all these things that are busy things that you know how to do. It's the same
Exactly.
as for someone who has lived in the same town all their lives. It's the same as they're moving back home because you're so comfortable with the kinetics of it.
Absolutely. I'm so comfortable with the chaos.
Yeah, yeah,
So I actually in that moment made a choice to try to learn how to stay. And that was well over a decade ago. So I think I'm doing a pretty good job. But that did teach me a lot. That did feel like the new adventure. Like that would have been the person who had never moved suddenly moving was me having moved all the time suddenly staying. And
yeah,
it
yeah.
it it gave me a lot. And it also showed me that now I'm feeling a bit of an itch again, but in a different way. Here's the difference. It's conscious choice. Now, if I would, it's not really a move. I'm dreaming of having like who doesn't, a villa in Italy or
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
and like part time between here and there. But the difference is I'm not running to or from something.
Right. Well, also that would suppose that your life is your life and that you're bringing your life to different places versus going somewhere else and leaving your life behind. You
Yes,
know,
nicely said.
you
Mm,
know. Yeah,
definitely.
because I relate to that too. You know, my wife and I, there's five kids and it's like there's two grandkids and it's so at this point it's really where are they? Where are they? Like we've been in Iowa now 10 years. You know, this is, there's another chapter going somewhere else after this, but we're not thinking, oh, that's going to be like we're going to plant ourselves somewhere. But wherever we go, we're taking our family unit basically, you know, our circumstances, work, hobbies and friends and kids and dogs and all that stuff. It's like we're not like, oh, let's get away from everything. We're like, okay, let's just situate ourselves here for a little bit and see because we can't find I can't identify in the world, and a lot of it is also just exploring. Can't identify in the world at this moment a specific place that I would like to be all the time. Like I can't say this city, this island. It doesn't mean we won't find it, but I just don't like. I can't like. It doesn't come to mind a
Well,
place.
what makes you want to leave?
Well, it's Iowa. I mean, what makes and well, I want to be near the ocean. I want to, I want to be I have one of my daughters overseas. I want to be closer to her. I have, it's
Where is
it's
she?
she's in Israel.
Okay.
So, like we talk about Cyprus, we talk about even Europe, possibly Vienna, where my wife had lived for a year. There's just all these different places, but nothing seems like I think it's just in our soul. We're not seeking a place to just, settle down.
So what are you
That
seeking?
I think a place that's like, really comfortable for us, for our personalities and stuff, and is centrally located to, the kids, which could range from, let's say Israel to New York to, the Midwest or wherever they are wherever they decide to go. Um, and is just really pleasant and engaging in its own right. Um, but but I, for one, intend to continue traveling a lot for work. So, you know, and my wife does as well. So it's like there's a built-in sense of, at least right now, seasonal traveling that we do for work, you know, so that wouldn't stop. Um, yeah. So,
Well,
I
what
mean,
if
I
you
should be
ran
interviewing you and
what
not.
what if you ran a nomadic experiment so that you don't have to like choose a final place, but you
Hmm.
went, let's say you did Cyprus for a quarter.
Yeah.
You got to give it a chance, right? A month is not like, a significant, some
Yeah.
kind of at least 3 months. And then you could see how it felt. And then you could give Vienna another quarter and then, rent out your home just for the time being, just to like
Yeah.
get like tastes of things to get more to discover what it is that you feel where you feel comfortable
Yeah.
in and
I
what
mean,
what
that
feels exciting.
that makes sense, Pia. And that's like kind of what we're leaning toward. And you know, but to get back to your to get back to your story. No, it is I think that the reason I brought it up was because I think a lot of people right now can relate to that impermanence.
Mm,
The world doesn't feel like a permanent place anymore.
mm,
And so I think that
mm.
just thinking from the point of view of, you know, seize the moment, you know, where does, yeah, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, and I think for many people, what used to feel like home might not feel like home anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Very
feel like
true.
something is shifting.
Very true. And then
And
you
you,
feel like, is it allegiance to something? Is it, but it's not necessarily there, you know? So, yeah, but go on. That's interesting.
you mentioned belonging, and I being half Jewish, New York City, Eastern European Jewish, and half French Canadian Catholic. And my parents having separated when I was really young, grandparents in Washington Heights, my other grandparents in a small town in Quebec. I
Uh-huh.
really wanted to belong because I kind of felt always like I was a little bit on the outside, from things. Didn't really fit in 100% here nor there. And then you add the moving into the mix. And I remember yearning for that feeling of just like where do I belong? Where's my community? Where do I feel like I'm 100% accepted, not half? Like where is this going to happen? And I looked for a long time. I mean, I joined a sorority that lasted for like one event. I did a lot of different things trying to find these spaces until finally, however obvious this answer might sound, I realized that like home is within myself.
Yeah.
And if I create that sense of belonging within, I really feel at home in my skin. And I think this is one of the joys of getting older. We get it that's something that also happens. We feel, at least for myself, feel more comfortable in the skin I'm in. I understand myself better. I feel more at home. I feel like I belong to me. And so then
Yeah.
home travels wherever I am. And you know what? Those different parts I contain multitudes. Is it Whitman who said that? Like those are all just parts of what home feels like and who I
Yeah.
am. Because exile can feel like visiting the place you're from and not recognizing it as much or not feeling like you belong to it or you're a part of it anymore, which will happen if you're from New York City, because New York City is a city that changes fast.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not like, I mean, the Bowery on the Lower East Side where I grew up in the 80s, it looks nothing like the Bowery today. Forget about it. From CBGB's to Whole Foods,
Yeah.
it's a whole other game. So I think it's just really interesting to explore like what home is, especially when you move away from a home and a home that changes so frequently and when there are many homes. And I've just come down to the fact like feeling at home within myself is the best form of permanence until I die one day. But while I'm here, it's
But
the
then,
best form
yeah.
of permanence because I'm always here. And I'm changing too, but I get a chance to rediscover myself like a new territory, like a new land. I get to explore the different parts of myself again and again. And that's a practice. So
Yeah.
that was your answer to belonging.
Yeah. No, I love that answer. That's a fantastic answer because that is ultimately what it comes down to is what we seek places that feed a need or an energy or something like that. But like the Paris thing was a perfect, Paris does seem like a place that someone goes when they just want to be dazzled by without any effort. They want to be in a dazzling place, city of lights. I love Paris.
Me too.
Um, and, and just be there. And
Mhm.
then at a certain point, it's like, and they think to themselves, maybe, yeah, I could live here. I could do this. But really what tends to happen from people I've talked to is something gets solved or not, and they move on. And in reality, it was kind of just a holding pattern. It was just a stop to stop the world for a little bit
Mhm.
in some way. And I think now we feel like so the thing that you mentioned is very true. The places we grew up and the places we felt at home are not that home anymore. I mean, hyperbole aside, I don't think there is any hyperbole anymore. But I mean, what my dad and his, family must have felt leaving Germany. Um, I think they left in 38. They left when they still could, but not long before it was too late for people to leave. Um, Feeling that, you had to leave what my dad always described as one of the most beautiful countries in the world and leaving this place and then having to come to the United States and settle there and then adopt this country as your home and serve it and thrive in it. And then it's no longer that. So now it's
Mhm.
no longer that country that I grew up in, that I was raised in. And that does mess with you a little bit. You're like, okay, well, I don't have the luxury of just picking up and going anywhere I want, but at the
Mhm.
same time, uh, I want to belong both internally, which I've worked on a lot over the last 5 years. So I feel like, yeah, I'm probably in a much better place internally than I was, and that's a good start. And then it's a question of, um, is it just an adventure at that point? Is it just, okay, let's just see what's out there. There isn't anything permanent. Yeah, we get it. By the way, there never was anything permanent.
Exactly.
Ask someone, who was born in 1730 whether, it's permanent, and you won't get an answer. So it's not. But let's talk a little bit about your creativity as well, because I want to touch on that. And you know, yes, you were
No,
about to.
no, no, go ahead. I'm gonna let you finish. Just
Oh,
had a
I
thought.
was just going to say that that there's a parallel between the creative freedom and the professional freedom and the physical geographical choices and freedom. So I was just curious about that.
I was just going to build that bridge. You were
Oh,
putting down
awesome.
a plank. I was putting down a blank plank. It's interesting because when I was doing research for my book, about what encourages and nourishes our creativity, one research paper, what came through, or one of the big results was traveling
Hmm.
fuels our creativity
Yeah.
because we find ourselves in new environments, right? So we have to, creativity is also how we creatively respond to circumstances and challenges that we're presented with. So we find ourselves in a lot of novelty. We have having to think creatively about, oh, how will I do that? I've never been here before. What's that like? So getting out of the set routine is something that definitely feeds our creative
Right.
power. And so
Yeah.
that I found that really interesting. So I'd like to connect the dots and believe that's been some of what fueled me as well, as I've grown in environments that have been changing. So that's a positive thing. The other thing was, of course, certain courses and meditative practices. The findings did say that drugs and alcohol do not feed creativity, because there's like this myth about, I don't know, that we have to
Yeah.
sort of be intoxicated in order to come up with the œuvre d'art. And it's just a sticky cultural myth.
Well, I would add to that that I think it was Hemingway that said, "Write drunk, edit sober." But the reality is that if you write drunk and edit drunk, then it will remain garbage. And if you write drunk and at least edit sober, you're giving it a chance to really fly. And I speak from experience of, having done both, having you know gone through periods where I was drinking, a lot, or where I was very, what I thought was very creative during that time. I didn't felt like I needed it, but I would go on plane trips with my business partner, and let's say it's a 7, 8 hour flight, and you're drinking and you're coming up with ideas, and they're all great ideas, but the reality is the ideas come regardless. The ideas, you just maybe think they're better. Now maybe you're uninhibited, but the simplest answer to that is learn to be uninhibited as you need to be through something else, whether it's meditation or whatever. But the ideas, the idea, I can just say from experience, the ideas are just as good when I haven't had anything to drink, and am I more relaxed if I have a drink or whatever? Sure, but I think that there's an escape element more than a freedom element. More than like freeing your mind. You're just escaping whatever you're escaping.
Yeah, and
that's what it
I think you
feels like
touched
to
on
me.
something important. You said we think we're more creative. And there was
Yeah.
another piece of research that showed that psilocybin, like, in Silicon Valley, people who were taking psilocybin and like
Oh yeah.
brainstorming and coming up with
Yes.
ideas, their ideas were actually weaker under the influence, but they were under the impression that they were breakthrough ideas
Yeah.
because they were under the influence. Do you know what I mean? So I thought that perception and reality that was very interesting. The fact that they were, the perception was high creativity, breakthrough ideas, but actually in reality, they performed lower
Well,
idea wise. So that's
look
something.
no further than Elon Musk to find an example of someone who someone who thinks they're smarter on ketamine and has played with his own and with our fortunes in the United States and lost and realized that, no, in fact, these were not good ideas
No,
for anyone. And that,
that
but that's a, but that you don't even have to do a study to do that. You
no,
can
you
just look
don't.
at,
But it's nice to have some scientific
yes,
background, just to say it's not only an opinion. I mean, I have my own experience. Look, another research before I get to my own experience I thought was interesting. Another paper I read was about how the reason that we see a correlation between highly creative people and alcohol abuse and even drug addiction is because they are known to be more emotional or sensitive, emotionally open. So actually, they're drinking not to become more creative, but to dull their sensitivities or their emotional
Yeah.
receptivity.
Yeah.
And that is why we see a correlation between artists and alcohol or drug abuse. And I thought
Right.
that was that felt profound to me. Like, oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. And I think they looked at Amy Winehouse as one
Oh, wow. Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
So that's something to take note of as well. And I think as sensitive, emotional people, feeling people, which we all are, we can find other ways that don't compromise our creativity.
Yeah. And you were going to talk about your
Yeah,
experience, your lessons.
when I drank, I definitely numbed my creativity and my emotions. I did
Yeah.
both. It was escapism, and by the time I would get home and have there was no room left, no fire left in me to create anything. It just took me drinking alcohol took me further away from myself.
Yeah.
And creativity lives within who we are. It's not just something that we do, it's a way of being. It's when we're really connected to our own unique expression because there's nothing more original than you, right? There's
Hmm.
no one else like you out there. So being connected to who you are and creating from that place is a highly beautiful creative act.
Yeah.
When we disassociate and we disconnect from who we are, whether it's through whatever means of escapism, it could be many things, right? Busyness, alcohol, then we lose that connection to our creative power. That happened to me for sure. When I stopped drinking 5 years ago, and people should do whatever they want to do. This is what worked for me, and
Yeah.
I only saw a spike in my own creativity because I had more space, room, energy, and connection to myself to sit down and actually create. Because it's not just when inspiration strikes; it's something the practice that we return to daily or
Yeah.
frequently, at the very least.
An example that I talk about on the show sometimes is that as a stand-up comedian, when I was doing stand-up comedy, um, that's an environment where people drink, where there's a lot of, you work in a essentially in a bar, you work in a comedy club, you're working in places where people are going to forget about their troubles, right? But your job is something different from what the people there are doing. But what I learned was when I when I completely at that time, I still drink occasionally, but when I completely stopped for a period of time during the time I was doing stand up comedy, all of a sudden I stopped doing the characters and voices as much as I had been doing before. The which was really what I was hiding behind. And then I was able to come out and have more confidence in myself and just talk to the audience as myself and write my comedy that way for me, which is a less of a has less of a crutch, less of a net, but the quality of it soared. And so, in all the areas, and I think that kind of clarity and control, let's say, is really conducive uh, to creativity,
Absolutely.
to creating. Um,
Absolutely.
so so
Especially
that, but though,
consciously creating.
yes, yeah,
So we
yeah,
want to be consciously creating our experience, consciously creating our life above and beyond artistic expression. The operative word is conscious, being
yeah,
aware.
yeah. Being aware. It takes a certain emotional intelligence to be able to say, okay, there's the world is not what I would like it to be. The circumstances are not what I would always like it to be. So I'm not going to numb myself to the world or my emotions or any of that, but I'm going to find better ways to cope with my emotions, you know, find
And
better.
different,
Yeah.
yeah. and different ways of seeing and perceiving reality.
Yeah.
Because you could perceive like reality is like, oh, this is just horrible, like life is happening to me. Or maybe
Yeah.
you could say this is happening through me, for me, with me. There's something I need to see here or grow or learn from. That changes that changes the fabric of reality a bit when we start to
Yeah.
step into that script or step into that perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. It really does. So what's so now you're uh what are you working on now? What's where are your passions kind of leading you now?
Oh, all right. What am I working on now? Well, it was really interesting. I spent the majority of my career, well over a decade, working for creative agencies, so in advertising and marketing as a creative director slash copywriter. And I did that for many years. And I had a voice, that was poking me at night towards the end, sort of before I stopped my agency career, saying, what might happen if you channeled your creativity into building your own damn dream, your own brand, your own business? And I ignored it for a while because I was in a very cushy, safe place that on paper was good, but I knew it. I knew where the ceiling was, the walls were, the floor was. I knew what was coming, even if it might be
Hmm.
some different briefs or challenges. And it took my mother's passing suddenly in 2021 during COVID to really give me the passing gift of a shot of courage, a
Wow.
reminder that life is finite. And what am
Yeah.
I so afraid of losing when I'm going to lose it all anyway? Leaving my job and trying to build my own? What's in the scheme of things, especially from the vantage point of death? What am I really afraid of, right? What is this? So after my mother passed, I think a month later, I quit and I launched Collective Studio, not knowing what it would be. Oh, is it going to be coaching? Is it creativity, but done differently? Oh, but you find out by doing it, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that was a big lesson, a big learning. And I'm still, it's every time. I mean, it's not very creative to start to try to create something and expect to know what's going to come out on the other side. Like it's
Yeah.
the whole point of the creative process is you let go and you see what emerges. That's the excitement, that's the joy, that's the process. So I did that with my business. And then when I got the call to write a book, the founder of the hybrid publisher reached out to me and said, have you ever thought of writing a book? And I thought, yeah, I just don't know what I'd write about. And then the conversation began, but it didn't take death or didn't take something huge, divorce, some major life event to help me have the courage to say yes, because I had been practicing my risk muscle already. And I knew I wasn't going to die if I took a chance, if I took a risk, if I bet on myself. So I did it 24 hours. I agreed, all right, let's do it. Let's write this book. If not now, when? And then I had another epiphany. Hey, wait a minute. I don't only get to channel my creativity into building commercial ventures. I can channel my creativity into just making art, making work that leaves an impact, hopefully in the life of one person. So to get back to your question, now I'm creating a new choreography between creating with others. I like to think of myself as a creative midwife, helping other people birth their big dream, their business, their brand, their book, their creative venture, and doing the same thing for myself.
Yeah.
So it's new because it's beautiful and it feels really like integrity. I'm like, if my purpose is to unleash creativity to build a better world, I better also be unleashing it in myself. Like,
Yeah.
and what does that look like? And the book was really the big first expression of that. And so that's what I'm passionate about. I'm really, really passionate about working with people to help them bring their wild ventures and visions into the world to make an impact and to do the same thing for myself and to find the like this week choreography between the two because that still feels kind of new, you know? Because I
Yeah.
also want to enjoy this big fat life I've been given. So when I
Yeah.
say choreography, it's kind of like, okay, how does all of this also enable and support the life that I want to inhabit, right?
Yeah.
Not just the other way around.
Well, it's not just that you have to do it for yourself as well, in that you're helping other people. It's that they need to see that you do it for yourself
Mhm.
as well. I'm learning that too, and I draw inspiration from you because I get very immersed in my in celebrating my clients and guiding them to and a big thing that I will tell them is, take the 360 view of your personal brand. Don't, if you're a conductor and a scientist, you're a orchestra conductor and a scientist, let's bring it together. Let's see what the connection is. Let's explore that. Don't just be a bunch of hyphens that don't connect anything. But I have to also think that way. I have to think that in terms of books, in terms of whether I want to write fiction or whether I want to write a business book, a second business book, all those things. And I have to take the same advice. Don't leave these things out. Don't leave out the theater. Don't leave out the comedy. Don't, create a full person. And so I think I really resonate with you on that front because in addition to what a lot of what we were talking about, which is the impermanence of the world and life, is the simple fun and fulfillment that we were put here to achieve. And if we do that, and it's fun for us to champion other people, and it's fun for the people we champion to be making the world a better place, then we pretty much got it covered at that point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, I think we're put here to create. We are creations,
Yeah.
put here to create our lives, create whatever we want to make real in our world, and to live in integrity, to model things for people, to say, hey, this is what it looks like, at least from my perspective. And I'm sure your clients seeing how you stitch together all the fabric of you, from comedy to author to coach to all the things that you do,
Yeah.
right, is inspiring. And it will also draw your people to you because it's like, oh, he figured it out. Good. I need some help figuring
Yeah.
that out for myself. That's
Yeah.
good.
And
Yeah.
that's ultimately what I think we're trying to do is not, there are the kinds of coaches or consultants that say, here, I'm going to teach you how to
Yeah.
be a glass blower or how to make coffee. That's what I do. I'm going to teach it to you. That's different than saying, look, for me, it's coffee and glass blowing, but for you, it's this is who you are. Let's dig into you and figure out what your version is, you know? Um,
Yeah. What I'm hearing you say is the difference also between coach and consultant is, a consultant or is someone who's giving you their answers,
yeah,
saying these are, and a coach is someone who helps you find your own. And
yeah,
I'm a firm believer in that my answers are work for me. Like they're not
yeah,
going to work for anybody else. Like that is our kind of beautiful responsibility, is to find our way, if not into our answers, then into our questions. And no one can give us that. I know it would be nice. Like we can learn from people, don't get me wrong. But it's so, sometimes it would be nice if someone just gave you like a blueprint, like, here you go. These are the steps. That's why I think we all love formulas so much. Like, there's like the 3-step plan to get from here to there. And I think that sidesteps the important work of figuring out what your path looks like, which is not going to look like anybody else's.
that's great. That is a wonderful place to kind of circle back to. I would like you to share, while it'll be in the show notes, where people can find you, where they can reach you.
Collective.studio is home base. That's where people can find out more about my work, book a chemistry call, find out, more about my book, sign up for my newsletter. Oh, you asked me what I'm also doing right now. I wrote in my book, Welcome to the Creative Club, which essentially smashes the myth that creativity is reserved for the chosen few and invites
Nice.
everyone to access and apply it to the design of their lives. In this book, my editor said, if you're asking people to make life their biggest art project, you better make this book your biggest art project. So it includes everything from memoir to neuroscience research to also poetry. Because sometimes I feel poetry can hit you in a way that prose can't. It's like bypassing the analytical mind and going straight for the jugular. So I have like about 11. And now I'm working with a musician producer who's creating, his name is Tyler Bodkins, brilliant guy, brilliant partner. he's making tracks. He's made tracks, music for each poem, and we're going to be releasing an album soon.
Oh,
So
wow. I love that.
that was so much fun. And I think I wanted just to bring, I'm going to use your language, circle back to what you said earlier about like it gets to be fulfilling and fun. And like
Yeah.
whatever we're creating, it's so important to remember that it gets to feel really fulfilling. Like, and it also can feel like electric and charged and going towards what really lights you up, what sends like makes your spine tingle is a sign that you're on like your path. That to me is success. So that's what I'm doing. That's where to find me. And that's going to be launching in a week or two. So August 20th.
Thanks so much for tuning into Truth Tastes Funny. If you enjoyed the experience, please leave a 5-star review and share this podcast with your friends.